Alastair Campbell, Brexiteer, Owen, Patterson, along with European politics expert Professor Anand Menon. Alastair, we've all been in this game a long time, right? You've been at the sharp end of some very visceral hatred. You've dished out a lot of, pretty strong-worded criticisms of people. This stuff yesterday on national television, playing out in real time, watching a baying mob at Parliament chanting "You're an effing Nazi" at a female politician, it really did feel like a new low, even by the toxic standards of this Brexit debate and where we find ourselves. What's going on?
Well, don't forget, I mean, during the referendum campaign itself, Jo Cox was murdered.
Right.
So
that was the lowest point.
That was the lowest we've had. And, we were talking about this before. This situation at College Green has been bubbling and bubbling and bubbling and bubbling. And I saw Nigel Farage on your programme earlier saying it's both sides. It's not. It's a very small group.
Well, it may not be a Parliament, but it certainly is both sides wide.
The
there are plenty of videos of Farage being mobbed and abused.
But I'm talking about we're talking here about an MP yesterday who couldn't get into the, and
she couldn't get back into the Houses without being barracked and surrounded.
There's been a group of anti-Brexit protesters who've been there since June the 24th, 2016. They get on very well with Jacob Rees-Mogg and Owen and people like that. It's relatively recently. There's been this group that have targeted College Green, and I suspect they'll be watching this now and loving it.
Yeah, of course.
The fact that we're talking about them.
Why are the police not doing anything about it?
Well, I think that has been... I mean, I suspect because they've got such a security issue around Parliament itself, they probably don't want to take on College Green in the same way. But I think yesterday, what I do think was... And before Christmas, by the way, we were all getting this to some extent. Yeah. But I think, and also, it's not just.
Do you mean all on the Remain side, or all those voices in the Brexit debate?
There was just a nasty atmosphere down there, and I think it was the arrival of this very small, very right-wing group. But I'll tell you the other thing that I think has to happen is because it's not just the politicians. I mean, Sky are right next to the road. Kay Burley has been getting this stuff for weeks. Faisal Islam, the racist abuse he's been getting down there is horrific. So I think, and I do think the politicians at the top, Theresa May, Jeremy Corbyn, the lot of them have got to come out and say, this is not what this debate should be about. Owen and I, we can argue, and we will, no doubt, about Brexit, but I think there is a way of doing it that doesn't require people to think they can go right up to your face, intimidate, abuse and so forth.
Patterson, what responsibility... Because we're talking about a specific group of people who support Brexit and are barracking a woman who's very clearly arguing the other side. What responsibility does the Brexit side have over those people, or no responsibility at all?
Well, I think the whole area outside Parliament has now become a political theatre. So I walk down one side of the road, I get shouted at by lots of people wearing blue flags.
Have you been called a Nazi?
No. But it looks like, Alice and I were talking about this earlier, it looks like there's a small group of people there who are really, really unpleasant. And what happened to Anna yesterday is completely and totally unacceptable. I think what has happened is that there is such activity there, there now has to be more police presence addressed at this.
Nigel Farage
what you don't want to do is
to
distract
take
the police.
Action...
No, but just, it's very important. The police got a job protecting Parliament.
Yes.
All the terrorist
and
attacks
to
and
protect
stuff
individuals.
Which we've had. But I think there is a role also ensuring that there is civilised behaviour. There's a right to protest, and there's a right to wave banners and to make your point, but there is absolutely no right to abuse people and to use intimidating, aggressive language,
and
which
Nigel
is
Farage said earlier on the programme that to take action
there
against freedom of speech might look like an overreaction if the police do that.
The police are in a difficult position. There's a balance. I think they should continue, obviously, their critical role defending Parliament. There are armed police all over, and we've seen that is required on a daily basis, sadly. But I think there is an increased role for making sure there is civilised debate and protest.
Here's what I understand. If you go to a football match now and you chant racist abuse at Raheem Sterling, or you chant anti-Semitic abuse at Tottenham fans, for example, you're now getting arrested, banned, and so on, right? There seems to be one rule for how we deal with that behaviour in a football stadium and a completely different rule for this mob of hooligans chanting about Nazis.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying
there's a kind of double standard.
No, I think there should be police there who are now actually making sure there is peaceful protest, that law-abiding members of the public can say what they...
Which there has been since the referendum.
Which there has been.
In the main.
But MPs, absolutely, it's completely fundamental like Anna, who have strong views, which may be very unpopular with other people, have the right to get in and out of Parliament unhindered. And I think there is a role, and I think might have gone over the edge yesterday, and calling people Nazis and stuff, you're quite right, would be attacked at a
Piers, your point about the police.
Football ground.
Yesterday, a policeman was racially abused on television.
Right.
And was obviously in a very difficult position, because the other thing that's happening, this is with social media and so forth, these guys are filming themselves as they do.
Right.
Yeah. And clearly, because I've had this, where they're desperately trying to provoke you. That's what happened to Anna yesterday, because then they kind of get a moral high ground and we can talk about them even more. And it means, of course, that we're not actually talking about, you know, the single most important...
Well, let's get to the single most important thing. So, Anna, you're here as the expert, the kind of impartial, if there is such a thing with the Brexit debate. Let me ask you this, just from a, you know, you're not aligned to a party, right?
No.
Where are we with this? Because it seems to me, Theresa May was interviewed at the weekend, and when asked what would happen if she didn't get her plan through, she didn't seem to have any idea.
Uncharted waters.
You know, uncharted waters. When was the last time we went into uncharted waters where the Prime Minister herself doesn't appear to know what will happen? And what does it mean for the country, for our constitution, for everything?
Well, we've been on uncharted waters since June 2016. This is just a new bunch of uncharted waters that await if the deal fails. But it has been weird, because where we are is exactly where we were before Christmas, it seems. It's almost like the Christmas break hasn't happened. She was going to lose the vote before Christmas. All the indications are that she's going to lose the vote now, if she has it within the next couple of weeks, as she said that she will. There's precious little evidence of her own colleagues on the Tory benches having changed their minds.
Or the EU giving us any more concessions.
Absolutely. And indeed, when she was interviewed over the weekend, she played down expectations, as far as I could see, about what concessions she should get.
Seeking further assurances,
absolutely.
She, rather than...
So
she looked pretty beaten up yesterday to me. When I watched her on the news yesterday, she looked tired, she looked fed up with it all, and looked to me like somebody who realises the clock is ticking, doesn't really have any answer to what happens if her plan, as most people expect, gets roundly voted down.
I mean, what I would say is, can you remember the number of times you've said that about this Prime Minister?
Yes.
I mean, that's the point.
I've been saying it for over a year. So I agree. I agree she has this resilience, which people seem to find admirable. Of course, another word for resilience is stubbornness and just refusing to let someone else do the job.
Another word is failure.
Owen,
and if she fails to get... Can I just ask, sorry, Professor, if she fails to get the vote through, does she just keep going back to Parliament and keep holding that vote? Or do we actually then see the prospect of a no deal becoming a certainty?
Well, I think what will be crucial when she has this vote, because it looks like she's going to lose it, is how much she loses it by. I mean, if she's losing it by a landslide, then her chances of turning that round are very, very slim. Then who knows? There'll doubtless be a vote of no confidence in her. We don't know what will happen at that point. We don't know whether some Tory
vote of no confidence in the government, though, because she's
in the government, not the Prime Minister,
votes in her, and that means that she stays in position for a year.
If she loses it by a narrow margin, then I'm pretty convinced she will go back to Brussels. And, I mean, Brussels likes this deal. The EU is in favour of signing this deal. So she'll go back to Brussels and try and get some changes. They'll be cosmetic, but hope that it's enough to swing the small number of MPs that she might need to get this to
Owen,
through.
Let us bring you in here. I mean, we are where we are. They may be uncharted waters, but we still have to swim through them, right? We are in a position where the clock is ticking down to the March 29 deadline. There is a suggestion we simply delay or defer Article 50 or even potentially withdraw, right? What are the realities about that in terms of parliamentary support for any of those actions?
Well, I think Anand's absolutely right. Nothing has changed over Christmas. I talked to Tory MPs yesterday, DUP MPs. They're absolutely clear that the current proposal is unacceptable. I think much the best thing is that is voted down very emphatically on Tuesday, and that would give the Prime Minister actually a clear mandate to go back to the Europeans and say, right, let's go back to your offer of March last year, which President Tusk made, of a wide-ranging, comprehensive free trade agreement with zero tariffs, which is obviously, I think, everything I thought all of us here, Alastair, would probably agree with. And, OK, it's going to be very tight to do that. Obviously not going to do it in time for March 29th. In parallel, you say we will be actively preparing for world trade terms, which, in my opinion, are nothing like as alarming as has been portrayed by some people. But much the best would be a free trade agreement. When I went to see Monsieur Barnier, with a whole lot of others, customs experts, David Trimble, talking about Northern Ireland, the Northern Ireland border, it was very clear in October that that offer is still there. And I think we should just leave this agreement, which is just not going to get past Conservative MPs, some Labour MPs, certainly not the DUP, and move rapidly on to the free trade agreement. Until you get on to that, we're going nowhere.
Right,
and you need to do that. You need to do the World Trade Agreement to put pressure on them.
Could this happen?
I mean, I think the problem you've got is, you say, nothing has changed in 2016, other than the factionalism within Parliament, I think, has got even more intense. So there's nothing at the moment that Parliament is going to back. And, you know, this was about taking back parliamentary sovereignty. Parliament ultimately does have to kind of decide where we go forward. I think her deal is dead. I think she reminds me of a football manager who is sort of taking the ball into the corner flag, just wasting time, but she's losing 5-0. And so I think that she has to... The vote has to get voted down. I don't know why she's even having 5 days of debate on it. They're just going to say the same things that they said last time, and they then have to get into all the other options, which are, frankly, election or another referendum. I don't believe Parliament's going to agree on any of the proposals that Owen put forward.
No. Well, that's all encouraging, I must say. Thank you all very much. Glad that we've come back and started the new year on a big bang with all the resolutions we were all hunting for.
I have to congratulate you on that. Normally, it's much more high tension and drama than...
Well, everyone's agreed that we're in the cart, right? I mean...
Yeah, we're in the cart.
Right.
We're in uncharted waters swimming with sharks. You're watching Good Morning Britain on ITV.
Good luck, everyone.